Breaking Addiction. Welcome to a new short course titled Breaking Addiction, taken from the book Training Courses by Muteb Alqarni. In this course, we will discuss the steps to overcome addictive habits. In the first part, we will explore the addiction cycle, consisting of 3 elements. 1. The trigger, 2. The behavior, and 3. The reward. We will also discuss effective ways to confront each element, as breaking the cycle means breaking the habit's repetition. In the second part, we will focus on 5 important stages that addicts must understand before starting the process of quitting addiction. These stages include 1. Awareness of the difficulty of the task, 2. Gradual cessation of the habit, 3. Focusing on one habit, 4. Monitoring progress, and 5. Follow-up on the case. These stages help the addict progress in their therapeutic journey. So, let's get started. Take this as a rule. Every addictive habit consists of 3 elements. 1. The trigger, 2. The behavior, and 3. The reward. The trigger, for example, a pornographic image, prompts you to engage in the behavior, such as excessive masturbation, resulting in the reward, pleasure and comfort. Then the trigger repeats, prompting you towards the behavior to achieve the reward again. Thus, the behavior repeats in an endless cycle. It is a triad present in every bad addictive habit, such as smoking, drug and alcohol abuse, phone addiction, attachment to a loved one, overeating, impulse buying, neglecting personal hygiene, and so on. Identify a rooted bad habit you want to get rid of from now on, and follow the following steps with us. The trigger is anything that stimulates and motivates you to engage in addictive behavior. The trigger could be 1. A person, like a smoking friend who lights a cigarette in front of you, prompting you to light one too. 2. A thing, like your phone, which prompts you to browse TikTok, for instance. 3. A feeling, like boredom, prompting you to engage in overeating. 4. A place, like a bar, prompting you to indulge in drinking. Or 5. A time, like afternoon, prompting you to aimlessly drive around. Review your habit that you want to get rid of and write down the triggers that stimulate you to perform the associated behavior. Remember, the first step to quitting a habit is knowing its triggers and trying to stop them before they push you towards the behavior. Based on this, it can be said that stopping triggers is a direct way to stop habits. If, for example, your friend is the one who triggers you and reminds you of smoking, inform him of your decision to quit smoking or decide to completely distance yourself from him. If pornography is what triggers you to engage in excessive masturbation, install effective applications that block pornographic images and preclude you from easily accessing them. If boredom is what triggers you to overeat, eliminate the boredom trigger by engaging in enjoyable activities that alleviate boredom itself. If bars remind you of alcohol, avoid visiting bars altogether. And if the afternoon reminds you of the habit of loitering, try postponing your nap until the afternoon as an initial alternative solution. Think about the triggers of your habit and think about plans to stop those triggers. We will discuss 4 ways to stop triggers. The first approach you should start with to stop triggers is to remind yourself of them when they are present audibly. So when your friend visits you, for example, and lights a cigarette, say to yourself aloud, "The trigger that reminds me of smoking has arrived. I need to pay more attention because this trigger pushes me to engage in my bad habit, which is smoking." And if you see a pornographic image, say to yourself aloud, "Ah, this is a dangerous trigger that reminds me of the habit of masturbation." And when you see a plate of sweets, say aloud, "I need to be careful, as this trigger reminds me of the habit of overeating." So, The first step is to declare the presence of the trigger audibly, as the audible voice influences your subsequent decision more than the silent voice. When you announce the presence of the trigger aloud, try the second supportive approach, which is delaying interaction with the trigger. So when your friend smokes, for example, delay lighting your cigarette until 15 minutes after your friend lights his. And when you see an item that triggers your shopping habit, count from 1 to 10 before interacting with the trigger and making a purchasing decision. The goal of delaying interaction with the trigger is to create enough time between the trigger and the behavior. The longer the period you take to respond to the trigger, the weaker the link between the trigger and the behavior becomes, and the trigger no longer pushes you towards the behavior as it did before. This is precisely what you need: a weak trigger that doesn't compel you to engage in the behavior automatically. Can you delay interaction with your habit's triggers? When you delay interaction with the trigger, the third approach here is distracting yourself with other activities. So when you see your smoking friend, who triggers you to smoke, decide to distract him and yourself from smoking by taking him with you for a walk in the park, for example. And when you see a pornographic film, try to distract yourself by watching a horror movie or an amusing documentary. Let it be entertaining enough to distract you from the excitement of the pornographic film. Identify your bad habit and specify the small activities you plan to do when the trigger appears, like solving puzzles, doing home exercises, meditation and deep breathing, writing, drawing, coloring, watching informative YouTube videos, etc. Distract yourself with healthy activities whenever the trigger appears, making the trigger associated with a healthy habit that repeats every time it appears. What if you tried the above steps and couldn't stop the trigger? Try here the fourth supportive approach, which is creating contradictory triggers. For example, instead of leaving your friend as the only trigger for smoking, add new triggers that remind you of the habit of not smoking, like making a non-smoking friend, or sticking posters of lung cancer patients caused by smoking on the walls and doors of your home. Also, you should stick pictures of obese people to deter you from overeating, or make a committed overweight friend who follows a dietary regimen that encourages you to eat less. Create new triggers that remind you of the danger of the habit and push you to do the opposite. The question now: what new triggers will you add to your life to encourage you to do something healthy and to deter you from practicing your bad habit? Remember always that stopping triggers means stopping habits directly. But what if you couldn't stop the triggers? Try here to fight behavior, and you can fight behavior by learning 3 things about it. 1. Its frequency. 2. Its duration. And 3. Its intensity. Frequency is concerned with the number of times the behavior is performed. How many times do you engage in your bad habit per day or per week? While duration concerns the time the habit takes to be completed. How long does it take to do your bad habit, like smoking, for example? As for intensity, it deals with the strength of the behavior's impact on you. How strong is your connection to your habit and its effect on you if you don't do it? The best way to fight behavior is to start by fighting its frequency, by reducing the number of times it is performed. For example, if you smoke 10 cigarettes a day, decide to fight this behavior by smoking 9 instead of 10. And if you indulge in masturbation 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening, practice it only once a day, like in the evening. Remember that the goal is to break the cycle in which the addiction process takes place, so reducing the number of times you engage in the behavior eventually leads to a weakening of the desire for the behavior and a weakening of the presence of the trigger accordingly. In short, don't leave the day open for practicing your bad habit whenever you want. Set a specific and consistent time for your habit, and reduce the number of times you do it per day as much as you can. After combating the frequency, try combating the duration of the behavior. The best way to do this is by either decreasing or increasing the duration proportionally to maximize your aversion to the habit. If you smoke one cigarette in 5 minutes, try smoking it in 15 minutes, thus reducing the number of cigarettes you consume by extending the smoking duration. Do the same with the habit of overeating. You should extend the time you spend eating to feel full, thus reducing the number of calories you consume. You can also do the opposite by reducing the duration. If your masturbation habit lasts for half an hour, making you enjoy it, then do it in just 5 minutes to diminish its pleasure and end the associated craving. Similarly, if you shop excessively, shorten the time you spend in stores because prolonged shopping encourages purchases. After combating the frequency and duration, try combating the intensity and strength of the behavior, meaning your attachment intensity to the behavior itself. You can do this by imagining yourself being monitored by a camera while practicing your bad habit. Do you engage in excessive masturbation? Then imagine yourself engaging in it with a camera on the room's ceiling recording you. Perhaps seeing yourself doing it and being surprised by your actions could change your behavior. Do you enjoy smoking? Also, imagine a camera recording you while smoking, and you'll see your appearance and facial expression while smoking are different from the handsome young man smoking in Marlboro ads, which might reduce your admiration for smoking. Similarly, imagine a camera observing your overweight figure while overeating, and you might realize that you're not fit enough to eat whatever you want. After combating the trigger and combating the behavior, the last task is to combat the reward, as the reward is what makes the trigger repeat and convinces you of the behavior's worthiness. Every habit has a reward, which may be 1. Emotional, psychological, or 2. Physical material. When you engage in the habit of smoking, you receive an emotional reward, such as feeling relaxed and having a mood lift, for example. And when you watch TikTok videos, you receive another emotional reward, such as pleasure and enjoyment. The second type of rewards is physical and material. When you engage in the habit of tardiness and coming to work late, for example, you'll find the reward of earning free money without extra effort. And when you indulge in drinking alcohol, you'll find the reward of relieving physical pain, for example. Ask yourself, what rewards does your bad habit give you? The best way to combat the reward is by 1. Replacing the reward, or at least reducing it, and 2. Invoking punishment, or at least hastening it. Let's start with the replacement of the reward approach by finding an alternative habit that gives you the same reward as your bad habit. If excessive shopping gives you the reward of feeling comfortable, replace it with the habit of window shopping. Window shopping gives you the same emotional reward as excessive purchasing. Exercise also gives you the same reward as smoking in terms of mood improvement, while chewing gum or using a stress ball gives you the same reward as nail biting. The question is, what habit gives you the same reward? If you cannot replace the reward, reduce the pleasure of the reward. For example, by diluting the pleasure with feelings of regret. When you smoke a cigarette and get the reward of mood elevation, try to feel regretful about what you did. Regret ruins your mood and diminishes your joy in that reward. And when you overeat, regret and audibly say, "I regret it, my weight will increase now." It's an old religious idea that stipulates regret after repentance, as one of the conditions for repentance in Islam is regretting committing the sin. Remember that one of the benefits of feeling regret after each practice of the habit is that it makes the reward automatically associated with a feeling of aversion. Thus, the reward won't be 100% enjoyable. The presence of regret reduces its pleasure to, for example, 70%. And this is what you need so that you don't get excited about the behavior's reward. The second way to combat the reward is by invoking punishment in what is called aversive therapy. After finishing your bad habit, for example, try to remind yourself of the punishment you will receive in the future, like saying after smoking a cigarette, "Congratulations, you're closer to cancer now." And after eating, "Congratulations on your new 1-pound weight now." Make yourself remember the punishments that will result from the addictive habit after each practice of it, because every bad habit has its rewards and punishments. The mind abstains due to fear of punishment, just as it is driven by the desire for the reward. Remind yourself of the punishments so your behavior becomes closely associated with punishment instead of reward. The question now: what are the possible punishments associated with your habit? If you cannot refrain from your habit via punishment, hasten the pain of any available punishment. Instead of reminding yourself of future punishments, such as cancer and weight gain, etc., which you may not heed, punish yourself with immediate and non-future punishments, like saying to yourself aloud, "If I smoke today and get the reward, mood elevation, then I'll deprive myself of visiting the cafe and enjoying its rewards. And if I buy something unnecessary today, I'll punish myself by depriving myself of my favorite lunch tomorrow." Constrain yourself to choose between two rewards, either the reward of the bad habit or the reward of the routine habit. If you choose the reward of the bad habit, punish yourself by depriving yourself of the reward of the routine habit. The question: do you have routine habits that you don't want to deprive yourself of? One last way to combat the reward of the bad habit is to allocate yourself rewarding incentives for every major milestone you achieve in your mission to quit the habit. Set an encouraging prize, like saying, for example, "I'll buy an iPhone 15 if I complete the first 2 months in my mission to quit smoking," or "I'll buy myself a car for $15,000 as a reward for losing a third of my current weight." Make a reward for yourself for quitting the habit more appealing and competitive than the reward you receive daily from the bad habit you engage in. Set big and encouraging rewards, or allocate small daily rewards for each daily progress you achieve. The question: what daily or monthly rewards will you reward yourself with in your therapeutic journey? So, we said that every addictive habit is formed in a cycle, meaning it starts with a trigger that prompts you to perform a behavior to obtain a reward. We also said that the trigger can be solved by announcing the presence of the trigger aloud when it appears, then delaying the interaction with it, then engaging in distracting activities, and finally by introducing stimuli that lead to the opposite behavior, such as posters and substitute friends. And we said that the behavior can be solved by reducing the number of times it is repeated, and by lengthening or shortening its duration, and by reducing its intensity of attachment through imagining the presence of a monitoring camera. Finally, we said that the reward can be weakened by replacing it with rewards of similar habits, or by mitigating it with regret, or by invoking its future punishments, or by being deprived of rewards from routine habits, or by setting separate encouraging rewards. After understanding the addiction cycle and how to eliminate its 3 elements, The addict must go through the following 5 stages before starting the mission to quit the habit. 1. Awareness of the difficulty of treatment. 2. Gradual quitting of the habit. 3. Focusing on one habit. Then 4. Monitoring progress. And finally, 5. Following up on the case. The first stage, awareness of the difficulty of treatment. The most important thing for the addict to understand before starting is to realize that treating addictive habits will not be easy and may be accompanied by withdrawal symptoms, such as headaches, pain, fatigue, tension, etc. In short, be aware and expect these possible difficulties, so you won't be surprised by them in the future, as change won't happen unless you pay its steep psychological or physical costs, or both. The best way to alleviate the difficulty of treatment is to consult specialists, including doctors and scientists, on how to initially overcome withdrawal symptoms such as headaches, pain, and nausea that may appear immediately after quitting drugs, for example. One solution is for doctors to prescribe medications and drugs to help you overcome the effects of these withdrawal symptoms. Without medical support, you may return to the habit. This concerns substance addiction related to smoking, drugs, and alcohol. As for other habits, you can endure their withdrawal symptoms, if they occur, by reminding yourself of the benefits and rewards you will gain by quitting the addictive habit and reminding yourself of the losses you incur due to your attachment to it. Are you aware of the advantages of breaking your negative habits and the drawbacks you'll face if you fail to make a change? When you realize the difficulty of treatment and prepare for its withdrawal symptoms, the second stage is recognizing the importance of gradually quitting the habit. Since addictive habits start gradually, you should also get rid of them gradually. In short, allocate sufficient time to eliminate each habit according to its severity and intensity. For example, make the period to quit smoking habit a full year, no less. Make the period to quit excessive masturbation 6 months, for example, while assign the task of quitting the habit of overeating only 3 months, and allocate only 1 month for quitting the habit of excessive shopping, and so on. Determine a sufficient duration to quit your habit according to its intensity, because what is achieved quickly disappears quickly, and what you achieve gradually lasts long. The best way to implement the gradual quitting is to reduce the number of repetitions of the action. For example, if you smoke 10 cigarettes a day, smoke 9 cigarettes in the first month, 8 in the second month, 7 in the third month, 6 in the fourth month, and so on until you gradually get rid of the habit over the course of a full year. You can also introduce a relapse as a weekly reward within this progression. For example, smoke 9 cigarettes in the first month, then smoke 10 cigarettes as a reward every Saturday. This will make your task of quitting the habit comfortable, as the relapse has become a legitimate reward for the end of the week throughout the treatment period. So, do not blame yourself if you relapse and smoke 10 cigarettes, but smoke and enjoy, repeating the famous poetic line, "Forget blaming me, for blame is tempting, and heal me with what used to be the ailment." Please refrain from being too harsh on yourself. This is the key to overcoming addiction. After deciding to gradually quit the habit, the third stage comes, which is the importance of focusing on quitting one habit only for each specified period. The reason for this is that quitting habits requires willpower. Willpower is a limited quantity in humans. So, if the willpower required to quit smoking is 100%, then you must devote yourself entirely to quitting smoking alone. If you decide to quit smoking, which requires 100% of your willpower, and also decide at the same time to quit watching pornographic movies, which may require 80% of your willpower, then this means that quitting both habits together requires 180% of your willpower, and you only have 100%. This means that you will fail in both, and you should have focused on one of them for each period of time. The best way to double your focus on quitting one habit is to set your goals from now on and focus on targeting one habit only. For example, set short-term and long-term goals and say, my short-term goal is to get rid of one cigarette only each month, and my long-term goal is to quit smoking completely a year from now. My short-term goal is to shop every 3 days in the first week of this month, and my long-term goal is to shop only once a week by the end of the month with a budget of, for example, $100. Set your goals from now on, write them down on a paper, then hang the paper on the door to see it before leaving the house. Having clear goals doubles discipline and commitment. After acknowledging the difficulty of the journey, agreeing to the importance of the gradual progression, and setting short-term and long-term goals, monitor your progress. Tracking progress is the fourth stage in the task of quitting habits, and it is the most important stage. Yes, it is the most important stage, for without it, you will fail in the task, as how can you progress without tracking the number of cigarettes you smoke every day? Remember that you have to smoke 9 cigarettes in the first month, which means that you must pay close attention to achieving this number to complete the task. And you will only remember that through daily tracking of the number of cigarettes. Daily tracking should become a daily habit practiced every day to remember that there is a habit you are trying to quit. Ask yourself, are you ready to track your progress? The best available way to track progress without stress is to open a note on your phone and record every cigarette you smoke throughout the day. Light a cigarette, then put a dot in the note on your phone and count the number of dots at the end of the day. To remember recording the number of cigarettes, set an alarm that rings at the end of each day before going to bed. The alarm rings in the evening so you can record the number of cigarettes for that day. At first, you will find that tracking is a very difficult task, but remember that it is an essential task, as without it, you will not be able to continue. Tracking is also useful in that it informs you about the days when your cigarette consumption increased and when your relapses occurred, so you can review those days and identify the circumstances and triggers that caused these relapses, thus avoiding them in the future. After tracking comes the fifth and final stage, which is the follow-up stage, meaning finding someone to follow up with and hold you accountable for your grades and the number of cigarettes you record and track in the notes. The addict needs someone to follow up with. Therefore, therapeutic plans succeed when supervised by a doctor because the doctor follows up with the addict. On the other hand, treatment plans fail when the addict does them alone because they do not have a supervisor. So look for a friend with the same interest in quitting the addiction you suffer from. Then agree with them to report to each other the number of cigarettes smoked each day. Do not underestimate follow-up, as it is an integral part of the treatment process and ensures no relapse. Relapse happens in the absence of a support friend. One of the effective methods in the follow-up stage is to participate in anonymous Telegram groups that bring together addicts involved in treatment plans to quit a specific habit. For example, join groups like Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous, which are organizations that hold meetings to help addicts without disclosing their identities. Try leading the mission yourself and opening groups on Telegram, for example, with anonymity, to bring together addicts to support each other in finding solutions and support. In short, create a support system that follows your treatment journey, and let the system consist of friends, relatives, loved ones, or anonymous people. The important thing is to find someone who supports you, follows you, and tries to encourage you to overcome your habit. Finally, we come to the conclusion of the Breaking Addiction course. We have learned a lot in this course, and the best thing we have learned is that addiction is a cycle consisting of 1. Trigger, 2. Behavior, and 3. Reward. There is no possibility of breaking this cycle unless you confront the trigger to stop it, confront the behavior to reduce it, and confront the reward to weaken its value or invoke a counter-punishment. After understanding the dynamics of addiction, the task of quitting the addictive habit begins by 1. Realizing the difficulty of treatment, 2. Recognizing the importance of gradually quitting habits, 3. Focusing on quitting one habit only, 4. Regularly monitoring progress, daily, weekly, and monthly, and 5. Following up by creating a support system of friends, relatives, loved ones, or anonymous individuals. Do you seek concluding advice? Approach your journey with gradual steps. This training course, Breaking Addiction, is taken from the book Training Courses by Muteb Alqarni.